Hi, my name is Adam Grayson, and I'd like to show you an effect I made for Grapple. One of the things we needed for the game was a way to show the players where lantern thieves were in the environment, and one of the solutions we came up with was to have beams of light emanating from the lantern thieves shooting up into the sky. We liked this solution so much because it would remove the need for a HUD item that would potentially occlude the screen, and because players would be able to see the beams of light from almost anywhere in the environment. So let me show you how I achieved this effect. The first thing I did was create a material that utilized two textures, one for the actual beam of light and one for a transparency gradient near the bottom of the beam. For the material's diffuse channel, I created several different parameters, two for the tiling of the UVs, one to control the speed at which the texture moved up or down if negative, and one to control the color of the beam. For the material's opacity channel, I created a parameter that controlled the opacity gradient's coverage over the beam of light. The smaller the number, the more coverage, the bigger the number, the less coverage. As you can see, the beam quickly fades out near the bottom, but as I make this value smaller, that transparency is going to creep up the beam until the value is small enough so that the gradient covers the entire beam, making the whole thing transparent. Reversely, when I make this value larger, the tighter that gradient is going to become. Lastly, I used a code snippet that I use for many of my effects that makes the beams of light rotate with the camera around the z-axis. After the material was done, I created several material instances of varying colors for the designers to play around with. Then to put the beams of light actually in the world, all I needed was a simple plane with one of those material instances assigned to it. Then of course the height of that plane could be played around with so we could make the beam as tall as we wanted. After that, the parameters in the material instance could be changed to see what actually looked best in the world. And while I already described what these parameters do, it's much easier to see their effects on a big beam of light like this. So again, you can change the coverage of the transparency gradient, making the fade out of a beam of light larger or smaller. You can change the number of times the textures repeat themselves on both the U and V coordinates. You can change the speed at which the beam moves up or down if negative. And you can change the color of the beam itself. And once again, you'll notice that the plane always faces the camera. Lastly, I wrote two Unreal scripts to package everything together. The first script coupled the plane and the red material instance together into an actor so that it could be dragged into the world or referenced by code. The second script exposed all of the parameters of the material instances in addition to the scale of the plane so that changing these values in one actor could affect all of the beams of light in the game at once. And lastly, here are a few clips from the game showing off these beams of light.
It's shooting smaller machines! Riker, they're stealing our power cores!
Confirmed. We can't lose those. Take them down and retrieve the cores. Cliffside, under attack. Do you copy?
Our core is lighting it up!
Roger that. I can see the spike on my radar. We'll use that to track them. Over.